Hello and welcome to part 8 of the series on how to create a Twitch UI with ReactJS. In this part we are going to cover the sidebar. We left off last time at the navigation bar. We have created a navigation section, the search section and the account section. And now we are going to focus on the sidebar right here. So in the sidebar we see actually 3 different sections. We have a top section which is recommended channels. We have the current people streaming or the active people streaming, which is right here. And then at the bottom we have a message from Twitch which says that we need to sign up. So those 3 different sections are what we are going to create. So first we are going to start with the top section. We are going to open up the sidebar, and right here we are going to create 3 sections. So in the sidebar we have a div, another div and a third div, and we are going to name them top, middle and bottom sections. Or well, top section, users section. That makes more sense, I think. And then Twitch message section, like so. And then let's see, we are first going to create this section right here. We see the text recommended channels, so let's copy that over, create a span and put it right here. And as you can see, the text is being displayed in the browser, but the text is not being in caps lock like right here. So to fix that, we can write it in caps lock, or even better, we can let the CSS do the work. So how do we do that? Well, we open up the sidebar.css, we go into the top section and we target the span. And right here we are going to write text transform of uppercase. So now it will transform all the text inside of the span to an uppercase, which you can see is working. So next up we are going to increase the font weight to 500, and we are going to change the font size to 0.8 rem, like so. Next we are going to create the button right here. So as you can see, the button is actually an icon button with the text collapse, so it also has a tooltip. So in our sidebar we are going to create an icon button, and an icon button needs an icon, so we are going to import an icon, arrow back from material UI icons, arrow left is it? It is, I think. So we pass in the icon like so, save it up, and it's not the icon I meant, so I think it's arrow back. Paste it in. Yes, okay, nice. So I've already looked, but this icon is not available in the material UI icons, so we have to do it with this one, but it's fine, I think. So next up we want to display a tooltip. The tooltip is collapse, so let's write tooltip collapse, so, and now we will see our tooltip appearing underneath there. But as you can see, the tooltip is in all caps, so this is a little problem that we have created. Every span in the top section will be transformed to uppercase, so also the span inside of the icon button. Well, we can prevent this by saying only the direct children of the top section, and the span inside of the icon button is not a direct child of the top section, because if we go to the icon button like so, we see that first a button is wrapped around the span, so this won't affect that span. Check it out, and it's working. Nice. We do want to write a capital C, like so, and then we actually want to display the button and the text next to each other. So we are going to do that by applying a flex class to the sidebar. So right here, well, actually to the top section, we are going to say display flex, and right now they should be next to each other, but I think the sidebar is not wide enough. So let's try increasing the width a little bit. The width is defined in a variable in the app.css, so we are going to change this to 240. Did it change anything? I don't see. Well, doesn't look like it. it doesn't look like we applied the flex class at all to the top section. Oh, we applied it to the span. Okay, sorry, mistake. Sidebar, top section, and then display flex. Yes, okay, nice. So we might want to decrease the size again to 230, like something like this. And we can close this, and we can we want to center those so that they are at the same height. So we're going to say align items center, like so. And then we also want to center them inside the sidebar. So we're going to say justify content space between. Oh. What space between is it spaces the items out, it pushes everything to the sides. But this doesn't look that nice because it's now sticking to the side. So if you also want a little bit of space between the items and the side, you've got to choose space around. So if you do space around, you will see that the items are now being pushed also a little bit from the side. So we could also do center, but then they are sticking to each other, which is not what we want. The space around is the way to go in this situation. And let's see, the first thing that I'm noticing is that our tooltip is at the bottom, and here the tooltip is on the right. So how do we fix that? Well, we fix it by going inside the icon button. What are we going to do there? We are going to create a new property right here. We are going to create a tooltip direction, which is nullable and a string. And then we want to render the tooltip based off which direction we pass in. So by default, it should be a tooltip which is looking to the bottom. And let's see, I'm just going to copy over and create a second tooltip just to show you how this works. So now we have two tooltips, a tooltip bottom and a tooltip right, but we haven't actually created those classes. So that's what we are going to do in a second. But let's just look at how this looks. Right now we won't see any difference because they are overlapping on each other. So that's good. So now we open up our icon button, and in the icon button we are going to create a tooltip bottom and a tooltip right class. Like so. And then we also want the after class for this one. And then the same, but then for the right. So now you might think, hey, but why do we have the tooltip right here? This is all duplicate code. Well, we have this because we can reuse some properties. So let's see, for example, the position, the visibility, border radius, all those properties are reusable, so we actually want to keep them. So let's see, the top is not reusable, so that is specific to the tooltip on the bottom. That's actually everything. Then we have the after class. Here the margin left, the bottom and the left are specific, so they need to go to here, and the border color is also very specific. So if we save this up, we'll see that we have the normal tooltip, which is at the bottom, new prime loot, and then we see that we have a second tooltip in the middle, which doesn't have an arrow, and that is because our second tooltip is being rendered like this, and the tooltip right doesn't have any styling applied to it yet. So let's give it a left of 150%, and now you can see that the tooltip on the right is appearing actually on the right. So we're actually halfway done. The only thing we need to do is we need to apply the arrow to it. So we want an arrow that is pointing to the left. So in the after, we're going to say left of 100%, I think, a top of 50%, a margin top of 5 pixels or minus 5 pixels, and then we have the border color, which should be transparent, white, transparent. So hopefully, okay. So as you can see, the arrow is being there, but it's just a little bit out of place. So to fix this, we are going to say instead of left 100%, right 100%. And as you can see, the arrow is now nicely appearing inside of the collapse tooltip on the right. And now we can actually remove the double tooltips, because right now we see the tooltips everywhere. We could also make a tooltip for the left and the top, but I don't think we need those, as far as I can see. So we're just going to leave it at those two. But now we want to dynamically render those tooltips. So at this button, we only want the bottom one. Here also, only the bottom one. But here, we want the right tooltip. So how do we let the icon button know which tooltip to render? That's why we have the tooltip direction. The tooltip direction is going to tell which direction the tooltip should point to. So we are going to create a function right here. So the code inside of the return right here, inside the render, won't get too messy. And in this get tooltip, we expect a direction, which is a string or undefined. So if we hover over this, we see it's also a string or undefined, because we added the question mark. Might not be there. So then we check if direction equals bottom, else if direction equals right. So if the tooltip is on the bottom, we want to return this. So we can just type in return this without the curly brackets, like so. If the tooltip is on the right, we want to return this, and also without the curly brackets, like so. And then actually what we need to do is we need to call this function, like so, and we only want to call the function when our tooltip is actually filled in. And then we need to pass in the direction. So we first pass it in the constructor right here, like so, and then inside the return right here, we say get tooltip with this variable. So if we save this up and look at the page, we won't see anything. Okay, why is that? Well, by default, the tooltip direction is not passed in. So by default, it won't return anything. So let's say, okay, well, that's fine. If tooltip direction is undefined, maybe we want to render a bottom tooltip by default, like so. So if you do this, every button should render the bottom tooltip by default. And as you can see, it is working. So how do we render the right tooltip then? Well, we can do that by passing in the tooltip direction right here, which we have just created. And then we can just say right. If we save this up, we will see that this now has a tooltip on the right. This has a tooltip on the bottom. Nice. So I'm going to show you one more thing, and that is how to make this a lot cleaner. Because at this moment, there can go two things that can go wrong. The first is, what if we type right with double T? We don't see anything. Why? Because right here we pass in right, and here it's checking if it's undefined. No, because it's right. Is it bottom? No, it's right. Is it right? Yes, but it's right with double T, so actually no. So we don't return anything. So that's not good. So say we write this correct, the same can happen right here. What if we say right here? It won't recognize because it's not the same. So how can we fix this problem? Well, we can do this by using Enums. So let's create an enum. We're going to create an export enum tooltip direction. And in this enum, we can define values. So we can say top, right, bottom, left, like so. And instead of passing in a string, we want to pass in an enum. So the type of the tooltip direction will be of this type, which we have just created. And if we save this up, we will see that we get an error right here, because this is expecting a string or undefined, but the tooltip direction is not a string anymore. It's of type tooltip direction. So we need to check that as well right here. So now that we have fixed this, we see two red squiggly lines appearing right here. That is because we cannot compare a enum with a string, and this is where the real magic happens. Well, this is where the real magic happens. Now we can say if direction is equal to tooltip direction dot bottom. The same for here, equals to tooltip direction dot right, like so. There's one more error we need to fix, and that is this. We now cannot pass a string in anymore. We need to pass in a tooltip direction enum. So we can simply do this by saying tooltip direction, and see right here, we created an export. So now every other script or file can import this by just importing the export. If we didn't do this, we could not import it right here. So as you can see, imported it from the icon button, and now we can access its values by saying tooltip direction dot right. So I'm gonna save this up. Look if it's still working. It is. And now I'm going to explain why this is better. Well, I just showed you why the previous solution was not good, because we could write the bottom or the right wrong. For example, write double T, it would not render anything, so that's not good. But what's happening right now? Right now it is checking if it finds the right with double T value in this enum, and it doesn't, so it throws an error. So if we save this up, it won't render anything because it cannot compile. So we need to write it in the correct way. Same goes for here. If we pass in right with double T, it will not recognize it because it is not existing on this enum. So we need to write it in a correct way. So what does this mean? If you have an error, the compiler will tell you that. So you won't have any more runtime errors if you use this. Well, in this situation. But now that we have created this, we have finished the top section of the sidebar right here. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. As you can see, we have also edited the icon button, and we have actually done it in a very good way. So I'm really glad that we did it this way. I hope you could follow this. I hope you enjoyed it. I did. So I'll see you again in the next episode. Leave a like, comment down below, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!